Elsa.
Hello, Concetta.
Can I just say I'm like so excited for this episode. I just want to go right out and say our guest, I want to say, is the nicest man in showbiz. And that's
because you've met at least 4 men in showbiz now at this stage in your career, and you're willing to rank them.
The rest of them, they're nasty little fellas, but this guy is a real good one.
He's a good egg, and we can just get straight into it. Very excited to have with us today the musician, singer, songwriter, great guy, apparently nicest guy in show business out of everyone Concetta's met, Mr. Ben Lee. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I feel the nice guy thing, it's really interesting because it's totally relative. Because I've also had people say to me, you used to be much nicer. But it's all niceness is tricky.
Yeah, I know.
We all have edges to us, but if people come expecting you to be really nice,
that's so
it's like
true.
very high pressure.
Oh my god, I actually regret what I've said, and I take it straight back. And
I'm gonna be a real little bitch on this podcast. Just wait.
Yeah, like it does put the pressure on. So I guess like Ben, now that we've established that you're like a really like nice guy, you're like the best guy ever. Like, can I have like $50?
Yeah,
I haven't yet figured out those apps. When I get those figured out, we'll sort that out.
Sick, yeah.
No,
yeah,
you're just like, I know that is such a great way to start this for like just being a human. There's so many different parts to you, but from how I've experienced you, you're great. And when people say someone's nice, it's like, how good is saying someone's nice? And also when you say someone's nice, you're like, well, what's the dark side? What's going on behind there? But I haven't seen, and I'm still saying it's good.
I think it's more that like I'm a little bit of a loose cannon in the sense that like I'm not totally consistent with, there are many sides to my psyche like there are to both of yours, and I've never been shy about deviating from plans and experimenting and all of that, and so you naturally reveal different sides of yourself, and I've never wanted to be like boxed in as just a nice guy, but that being said, I think it's very important to treat people with respect, and sometimes that includes being rude to people that deserve to be being rude to, that's part of respecting them as individuals.
Too real.
That even so cool.
That kind of leads to a question that I had for you that was probably going to come up later anyway, but it's relevant. So I guess so you say like sometimes people say that you're not as nice as you used to be. Have you ever can you think of a moment like where you were ever like maybe a bit of a diva, or do you ever think, because I think of that too, like if I was ever rude to someone and then afterwards I always regret it and I'm like, oh my god, like I think I was an asshole. Was I being an asshole? Do you have like your diva moment? Because also I think if I get any more famous, I will be a huge diva.
It's because my dog is going absolutely insane on a chair right now. I don't know what he's trying to find. I love your dog. Can I just see what you've got back there?
Your dog's having a diva moment.
Your dog's being a diva.
I've never really it's interesting, like I don't think my like a bad mood, or I don't think of the word diva, or like it's not about being successful or anything. It's more about being like I've always had more that like not suffering fools type thing. Like it's not about success. It's about like human intelligence and like flow of interaction, So I've been less tolerant at other times of like people not having a complex sense of humor, maybe, where like I've always felt that like I've actually always thought part of the reason I love comedians and I've always like been around comedy people is I've always thought that like for anything to work artistically, there has to be an element of humor to it, right? It has to be funny. Like sometimes like even like the darkest films, like I'm really sorry about the dog. He's
no.
What is he? He's throwing a real tantrum about this podcast plan that I've got.
I can't hear him really.
Okay,
so.
That's good. But yeah, it's. I guess like I don't know. Like for instance, take like anti-vaxxers or like people like that. Like I've actually been debating this a little bit with friends recently. That like they're like, oh, you shouldn't shame people It's not a successful technique to convince someone of your argument. And I totally understand that, but I also feel that at a human level, it's okay to respond to idiocy with an acknowledgement of the idiocy, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, all that being said, like I've totally been kind of mean-spirited at times in my life. I've also, it's funny, I just put this thing up on TikTok. I noticed this trend going around of people like saying, you know, my mental health's really good, and then having like a sudden have you seen that one?
Yes, it's my favorite TikTok face. I love it. And your one made me laugh so much.
Yeah, I just put one up that was about, I was like, yeah, my mental health's going really good. And then I'm suddenly remembering humiliating myself really drunk in New York at 19 in front of Jerry Seinfeld and Rick Rubin. And just like that type of like, you never get those moments back that come out of deep-bred insecurity, obviously, you know.
No. You did not just name drop Jerry Seinfeld on this podcast.
That name drop, it reverberated, it echoed through the room. You know what? Actually, before we even got on this, we were doing a little bit of research on you. Honestly, not much. The absolute bare minimum of prep we did for this.
Good.
Because we knew it would just be vibes. Okay, I
vibes.
Googled the words. I searched Ben Lee, Jerry Seinfeld to see if there was a connection. Because I knew Concetta would be excited by that. But now you've brought it into the room. What did you do in front of Jerry?
So I was, I loved Seinfeld when I was in high school.
God. Yes.
I just loved it. Like, and I know there's sort of a whole wave of like, almost like revisionism from people that were like too cool for Seinfeld or whatever.
Yes.
But I loved it. Yeah. So one night I was out in New York and it was just all musicians, and like our whole thing at that, it's hard to remember, but like in the 90s, like sort of like the more of an asshole you were, or the more disrespectful, or what is the dog eating? Okay, never mind. In a way that was like credibility. There was like a sort of hostility that came out of like, it became like Vice magazine and all that kind of thing, you know? So anyway, you just go out and just try and cause trouble and be an irritant to as many people as you could. And I just remember we were at this club that we used to go dancing at on Wednesday nights under a Thai restaurant called E&O, and then came up and Seinfeld. It was like one of those tables, like Seinfeld was trying to find a wife at the time. So he was like going out with Rick Rubin and Lenny Kravitz.
That's pretty random.
A lot. Because
he's on the wife hunt.
Well, you go where he'd been on his show for like whatever it was, 10 years, and he could suddenly socialize. And if you're in New York and you want to meet like hot young women, you go out with Lenny Kravitz. It's
my God.
It's pretty easy, right?
Wow. I think that still rings true today, probably.
I agree. So I was really drunk, and I was like, I just wanted to say something to him. And I actually also kind of wanted to annoy him.
Wow.
And so I knew, and because almost like, I guess I just viewed that as like irritating someone who's like a known curmudgeon also was like a badge of honor in a way.
Yeah. He would like shake his fist at you.
Exactly. Or just like give a really droll like eye roll at you. That would be the ultimate reward. And I got it, but it felt terrible. I just went up to him and I was like, I was totally drunk. I was like, I've got a concept album, all comedians benefiting cancer victims, called "You Got to See the Tumor in It." And that was the joke. It was not a good joke. And he just looked at me. He was sitting at the table, he just looked at me like this. I didn't say anything, and I was like, oh, that's my exit. And anyway, it's like the content of it was not impressive, but the chutzpah, the ability to get in there. Wow. I've always had that, like, get in there and just swing a few punches and see what happens, you know?
Wow, that's crazy. That's a story.
Yeah, because you were 19, so young. You entered the showbiz industry.
Literally, I had a question about that. I feel like when I also Googled you and looked at your Wikipedia page, go off Research Queens, when it says that you started so early, around like 14, what do you feel like entering? I mean, you're coming from like the music land and we have come from like comedy land, but like what was it like starting so young? What did you feel like you had to learn? What like changed you going from that young in like that industry?
I mean, I think some of it was just that I'm a very thorough learner. So I like to learn everything hands-on. Like, I don't want to learn it in a book. I want to experience it. I want to get burnt by the fire. I want to say the stupid thing to Jerry Seinfeld.
To Jerry Seinfeld,
like,
yes.
I don't want to hear other people's stories about it. I want to do it. So I think just my appetite for education through life required an early entrance in order that, and now I'm 42 and I think I'm like bare bones of professionalism. Like, I'm just now entering a level of professionalism that I see younger artists at 19, they show up fully formed.
Wow.
But I needed to like construct the whole thing myself with my own logic of like, why not do that? Why not be hostile to other human beings? Why not intentionally be a jerk? Like, what are the karmic ramifications?
Whoa.
All that kind of stuff I wanted to learn myself. So it's just that. It's just like a long, sort of interesting experiment, basically.
You grew up in it, and and then you have had such a long, kind of interesting career. And then, I don't know. So this interview as well, like we've dove straight in.
Yeah.
But we also wanted to say, so we know you're a huge fan of the podcast first, and then a musician second. But we wanted to know, like, were you thinking about coming on and you were like, oh, I've got this gossip that I want to say? Like, do you have any gossip that you want to get into?
Yes,
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Dish it out.
And when I was thinking about it, because like gossip, there's different types of gossip, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's gossip that's like shameful, and there's gossip that's like kind of mean, like, can you believe this person did that? But then there's also gossip that's just about like the weird details of people's lives that happen in private that are just fascinating and might even make you respect them more. I was kind of thinking about that type of gossip, like just like weird gossip. So I've got a couple things that came to mind. Are we just jumping in? Is that how it's working?
Give us the gossip.
Go for it.
Okay,
go
so
number one.
I am going like a little more like celeb gossip. I hope that's okay.
Yes!
No,
that's okay with us. Mr.
no,
Lee.
but I know because on the last episode I listened to,
Yes, homegrown.
You just wanted it. You like it best from like, whatever, like someone you went to school with or something. So anyway, okay. So these are like, I've got two particular really interesting kind of celeb stories. So one of them is my friend Brad. He plays in a band with what's his name? Dermot Mulroney. You know that actor?
Oh my God, that guy! My best friend's wedding.
Yeah.
Watch us both Google to like get
have
his
a look.
name.
Get the picture in your mind.
Oh my God, he's so hot.
I'll throw some credits out. Oh yeah, he's like the hot middle-aged man character.
And Irish. He's an Irish guy. He's Mulroney.
Irish.
He's like, and he's in a band with his brother and everything. But this is a pretty unknown side of something that happened to him. So he married this woman. I forget her nationality. I want to say Argentinian. You could probably look that up, and they're still married. And she had never met her dad, right? And don't get ahead of me because this is a reveal.
Oh, okay,
it's like mega. So she'd never met her dad.
He's her dad?
No. Way better. And when she had her own kids, so I guess she was like in her 30s. Okay, stop bugging me, man. Come on.
Poor doggy.
When she was like in her 30s, her mum said, "Look, I never told you who your dad was because it was sort of like it was a one night stand, and it was a just sexual situation, and he wasn't involved in your life, or and I didn't want it to be confusing for you, but your father is Mick Jagger." And when the Rolling Stones toured, we hooked up one night, and that's your dad. So Dermot Mulroney, he finds out his father-in-law is Mick Jagger, and Mick, I guess this has happened to quite a few times.
Oh, no.
So
he's been hitting it raw for 60 years now.
So he has a pretty amazing attitude about sort of like when these things come up in life, like he kind of doesn't run from them. And so they kind of tracked each other down. And there was this phone call where Dermot and his wife were gonna, chat on the phone. Which are like Mick was in Mystique or somewhere like that, like some like beautiful like colonial paradise. And they plan this phone call, and they get put through, and Mick Jagger gets on the phone, just goes, "Welcome to the family, love," and that was it. Now they go on holidays together.
Oh my god. Can I tell Mick Jagger that he's my dad?
Yeah, I was just about to say, I've got a bombshell announcement. My father is Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
Isn't that
hello,
amazing?
I'm your daughter.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I bet Mick Jagger would be a better father than Lauren and my father combined.
Like together.
Even
from a distance. He already has been in a way,
That's an amazing story.
Isn't that cool? Like,
That's
when I heard that, I was
that's
just
a
like,
win for everyone.
it's one of those things where you just like life takes you in a direction that you would never have expected.
And so did her mum, so she never told Mick Jagger beforehand? She wasn't trying to get any child support out of him?
I don't think so. It was like the 70s, and it was like, sexual freedom, and like
So
she took
true.
responsibility for it. She hooked up with a rock star. She was like, "I'll raise the baby."
Wow.
That's crazy. That's like girl boss
Yeah.
on a different kind. That's like a different kind of girl boss. Like she's like a girl boss and she's like, well, it's just my baby. I'm going to pay for it. I'm the kind of girl boss that I'd be like, I'm going to have some legal papers drawn up and it's going to be kind of a lot of money coming my way.
Totally.
Sign on the dotted lines.
Yes. Come on the sign and come. You've already done it.
That's
crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah,
oh,
I was blown
my
away by that
lord.
story. And so there's that kind of gossip I find is like, it's sort of enlightening. Like you don't feel dirty after you share it. You kind of go like,
yes.
wow,
Nice.
this world is wondrous. It's not that it's full of like good deeds necessarily, but
No.
life does contain openings rather than just like, collapses, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like we never want gossip that harms anyone. In my brain, I was thinking about it a lot, and I was like, gossip is just stories. It's just telling stories. Like from far away, it's nice because we're hearing stories from people we've never met, of people we've never seen, and it's just laughing at the time that someone shat the bed, all the time that people are hooking up in schools and everywhere, and it's just that's just people's lives. We're just talking about people's lives, and this is happening every second of every day, and movies are being made, and TV shows are being made, and Mick Jagger is spreading his seed all over the world, and we live to hear about it, and that is joyous.
Isn't it? I know, and it's kind of like it's also like we're a village. We're still innately people in a village square, even though it's all digital now and it's international. We're still just like yentas gossiping about, whatever. We're like, did you hear about this?
Yes.
It's such a fundamental part of community in a sense, isn't it?
Do you feel like, because in comedy it's a huge thing, everyone's talking about everyone where everyone's gossiping, it's just like a literal part of the life. You just you dip in, you dip out. Is it the same in the music industry? Not to accuse you of being a gossip, but I assume that's just the same in music. Everyone knows what everyone's happening, talking. Have you heard this about who's a singer, Beyonce? I don't know.
I mean, a
what's the
little, but I
vibe?
think musicians are in a way a little more thin-skinned because they're not like to be a comedian. I don't know. It's like the process of bombing your way towards being good is it builds up these calluses that sometimes musicians don't develop. And so I think musicians are they can be a little sensitive and a little earnest in a different way. But that being said, I think what I love about being a musician is that it's easier for us to utilize the tools of comedy than it is for a comedian to utilize the tools of music.
Yeah. Me and Lauren have been talking about putting out an album for a while now.
Well, it can be great. I mean, it can be great, but it's hard.
It
really
could be.
hard.
It would be
You tune in next week and I'm just like, welcome to Big Natural Talents.
I've got a ukulele. I'm like, sing, Lauren.
Wait, who did your theme song?
Oh, my boyfriend did actually.
Oh, that's good.
He's got a background in DJing, and he's played in bands and stuff as well.
Cool.
Yeah, and Ben sung vocals that we had to kill. They weren't good.
Oh.
Big natural talent. Big natural talent.
No,
Big natural talent.
He's
you
actually
can't
got a
have the
beautiful
male.
voice.
You can't have a male voice in there. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
No.
They're not the patriarchy, not in this pod.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And yeah, I totally agree. Like, we never want our gossip to be like mean-spirited, or even sometimes people send us stuff and they go like, I don't know if you want to talk about it on the podcast, but I heard this, and it's not mean-spirited, but it's something like a little bit dark, or like someone has done something that's actually like quite horrible and illegal or something. And it's like, yeah, like that's bad. Like, I don't think we want to have a laugh about that. But, you know, when it's just, you know, a simple olden times story of incest or something,
Yeah.
you know, there's a statute of limitations on being upset about that. Like, then it's all in good fun.
It's all in
It's
good
funny
fun.
because we're bringing like my wife and kids out to Australia to live for the first time because they've only ever visited, right? So they're interacting with Australians and, you know, different things I do that you forget how much gossip sort of forms the law of understanding who certain people are. Like
Wow.
in a sense, like, you know, Concetta, the show, you did the one with Rove, right? At Giant Claw.
Yeah.
So
we
like
did it together.
for me to explain to Ione who Rove is and the role that he played in our culture, it
Where to
involves
begin?
and it involves gossip. You basically have to talk about someone's personal life, and it shades, it creates all the texture of character that like the media doesn't necessarily. The media just does like simple, you know. So I've had to share a lot of Australian gossip in that sense.
Yes, to bring them up to speed. Oh my god,
Yeah.
there's just like so many things I want to ask you. Like, like one question. I don't know if we should do it now, but I've always wanted to ask you: do you prefer? I don't know now if you've like had the choice, but like, do you prefer living here or America? And the same question for working, or if anything, like what were the differences in vibes? I would say.
Yeah. Well, the fundamental difference that I've come to appreciate rather than like fight against, America's fatal flaw and its biggest asset is that everyone thinks what they're doing is absolutely brilliant.
Wow.
So when someone goes in to pitch an idea, they are going to tell you that their idea is God's gift to entertainment. And you are and they're, you know, like anything, 95% of the time they're wrong, but you at least get the joy of like working on things or collaborating on things where there's like real visionary like leadership.
Wow.
With someone who's like losing sleep over their thing and they want to do it and they're into it. And in Australia, that again, similarly, the flaw and the good quality is the humility.
Oh my god!
You know,
you just blown my mind.
Cuts.
Yeah, like I only will like meet people in Australia and should be like, this is like the coolest scene. If these people were in LA or New York, all they'd be talking about is how cool their scene is, instead of like just doing it. Like, whereas in Australia, everyone is so chill and self-deprecating. So in a way, it's good because people stay grounded. But the thing I always battled against was, okay, but then what about like really ambitious ideas?
Yes.
Like, how do you get off your ass and do them and motivate a team and get your friends around you and say, trust me, I'm going to do this. I hope it's going to be great, but it's at least going to be meaningful. It's going to, you know, so that's the stuff I sort of struggle with between the two countries. But the end point of America's self-obsession is you end up with someone like Donald Trump, who's president, and you end up with different countries. Like, you end up with whole nations in a country that disagree on truth.
Wow.
Yeah.
What the fundamental truth is.
That's kind of hyper-individualization of a society, kind of.
Exactly. So
turns people against each other.
So for sure. And in Australia, you know, like, I always thought, like, say for someone like Baz Luhrmann, like, for him to become himself, Australia doesn't help that. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no one, there's no one patting you on the back going, more flamboyant.
Yeah.
You know what? Think bigger. It's like, it
Yeah.
just doesn't happen. So you're bumping up against that. But look, everywhere's got its own kind of stuff. And you know, and one other thing, you guys both are good talkers, so just interrupt me at any point I talk to you. But another thing I really loved in LA, and what, you know, we tried to, before the lockdown, we were trying to get going at Giant Dwarf, was more unexpected collaboration. I feel like part of the way I became a good performer was like working. There's this club called Largo in LA that like a lot of musicians and comedians go to, and you know, I'd get up and do like 2 or 3 songs, and the bill would be like Bo Burnham, Ali Wong, Judd Apatow, Zach Galifianakis improvising, and then 2 musicians each doing 2 songs each. And you realize like what you have to do with that 10 minutes on stage when you're like kind of competing for audience attention, in a sense, against that level of talent and sophistication. Because of the cross-pollination, you put yourself in these different things. It makes you a better performer in ways you could never get if you stay insular.
That's so
I always want to like work with people in different mediums and with different skills and stuff, and learn how they turn on their audience. And I learn you know what I mean? Like we can share and teach each other.
Yeah. And actually, so that also leads us to, I think that's really cool that you want to do these like variety nights. And I don't think there's enough of that in Australia, especially like this kind of a little bit alternative scene where like you can kind of do whatever you want. And you actually did this show that came up when we were doing our research on you at the Largo a few years ago that we're going to talk to you about. You hosted a show at the Largo with one friend of the show. She doesn't know that she's a friend of the show, but she's a friend of the show, Lena Dunham, called Champagne Super Analysis. So you like hosted this show with Lena Dunham, and it was an Oasis themed evening that was intended to consist of songs and readings. And then also I would like to note that Brad Pitt was there. So
yeah, it was amazing that night. So that's a great example of like, what is that, right? Like,
please tell us, Ben, what is that?
Well, what I mean is that like, you know, I think professionalism is a little bit overrated in the sense of experimentation is more interesting, right? And I like, so what that came out of, and this is where I like everything to come out of, just having a laugh, basically. Like, I think Lena tweeted something about having just watched the Oasis documentary, Supersonic, that's incredible and everyone should watch it. And I just wrote back, I said, Ione always makes me read Noel and Liam interviews to her out loud whenever one comes up in the newspaper, because they crack us up. They are like, they're so funny, and they're
they're so full of hate.
They're hilarious, just so hilarious. So we have a thing in our house of like reading Oasis interviews out loud. So I said that, I just wrote that to Lena. It was like a thing, and then Lena wrote back, live reading at Largo. I'm not kidding. Call Flanny. And so I just texted Flanny. I was like, hey, can me and Lena do this thing? And so we had musicians like Lisa Loeb and Juliana Barwick and I can't remember who else, all different people. But like, we basically put these, like, did live readings of these interviews with the Gallagher brothers. So Lena and Spike Jones read this famous one together called Wibbling Rivalry, which was a really early fight that they had. That actress Retta, you know, she's really good. She played their mum. She did an interview as their mum. Oh my God. Brad Pitt came out and just did like he did like a surprise. Me and Lena were opening it, and then he just came out and we said, so in the words of the immortal Liam Gallagher, and Brad just comes out and stage, he goes, let's do this, you cunts. And the whole crowd just went,
God, I would slide off my seat to tell you that. But what was it like? What's Brad Pitt's like energy like? What's it like to be in a room with Brad Pitt? Like, I would just we would melt. I'd melt. I'm losing my train of thought being in the same kind of conversation as him.
I've met him twice, but both times he's like been super cool. Like, I actually think he's like a really cool guy, and he's like kind of like more of I think you can tell by looking at his life, he's not someone who is like I don't know, how do you say it? Like, he's not like an alpha guy that needs to like push him. Like he's like being with powerful women. Like I actually
he's got nothing to prove.
I like guys that like powerful women because I've always loved powerful women. Like I have no interest in any sense. Like I always remember this one night I like hooked up with this girl on tour when I was younger, and she was just kind of like so passive. It was not my fantasy at all. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm going like, because I always liked smart, creative, strong, like feisty people, you know, and women. So anyway, so I don't know, that takes me somewhere away from Brad Pitt, but yeah, he's cool, man. I think I don't know him that well, but I reckon anyone who can survive through the roller coaster of a relationship to like the media that guy's had and make it through his various marriages and scandals and parenting things and still just keep trying to make good work and put himself in, like, this comes back to what we were talking about. Like, okay, so I have a rule, like for like putting on nights or anything like that if I ask someone to be part of it and they respond by looping in their manager, it's never going to happen, and I don't want them anywhere near them.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I like person-to-person creator conversations, and that's what I want to do. And not everyone's like that, and there's a lot of people who get successful, I think, with the very specific goal of sheltering themselves from those types of interactions by inserting representation into it. And you don't have
little
to.
Cocoon.
Yeah,
you know?
like Will's not like saying your interview with Will. Like Will's really successful. He's not like that. He'll email you directly, be like, "Want to be on the podcast?"
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of, and I respect people that as they get more and more successful, they should put themselves in more and more weird situations and see what happens, because that's how you keep life interesting. You know,
that's so true.
That is true.
Have to. I'm barely doing it as it is, and I'm a nobody of like being interesting and doing interesting things, but you've got to keep it up as you move your way to the top. Otherwise, what have you got to say? What have you got to do? What is the point? That's crazy.
And if you want to say no, have the balls to say no.
Yes,
you don't need like someone to intervene in it. Like I got asked to do something by someone very smart the other day, but I just didn't think what they wanted me to do in it was that smart. And I said, I'd love to work with you. I'd love to do something with you one day. It's not this though. And it was totally cool. And I feel like we walked away with like mutual respect.
That's awesome.
Yeah, anyway.
Oh my God, I literally love that. Also, Ben, did you have a second piece of gossip before I forgot that you were like, we've got to dish this?
Yeah.
Just before while I remember.
Let's do that.
This is a really funny one. So let me try and think what year it would have been. So I think it would have been about 98. So I was living in New York, and a friend of mine had directed this movie called Desert Blue. It was like a Sundance type, like indie kind of movie, but it was actually the first movie that Kate Hudson was in. And so she, anyway, I did a song for the movie. So we were all hanging out one night, and one night we all, like 7 or 8 of us all came back to where I was living, and I had a Ouija board. And
oh my God.
So we kind of played with it. Yeah, we played with it like a couple times, but Kate Hudson seemed like super familiar with it, and was like, let's do the Ouija. Kate
Hudson is a witch.
Yeah, she was like, let's,
what this gossip is.
Yeah, she was like, let's do the Ouija. Let's get it up. Let's do it. So
she's like, I Ouija.
Yeah, exactly. So she apparently, actually, her family has always done the Ouija board together, and they have a book, a giant book, that they write down all of the messages that come through. So
her mum, Goldie Hawn.
Yeah, and Kurt Russell.
Right?
So
So
that just hit different. Remembering that fact.
But wait.
I was like, I know Concetta will not remember this. So let's remind her who her family is.
So we start doing the Ouija board, and it's moving around. Like, have you guys ever done it?
No, I'm too scared. We don't believe in bringing ghosts into this house.
Yeah, no, Ben, because we don't want trouble in our lives, and actually only negative spirits would be attached to a Ouija board, and they will lie to you and say that they're not. So even if you leave the house, they will be haunting you, and they will come with you.
I think you're right, but so it was moving though. It does move. I don't know why. I don't know if it's
you're lying.
I don't know if it's like the unconscious of all the people using it are like pushing it without them even realizing they're doing it. But for sure, I've done it several times and it's like moved around and done things. So anyway, so it spells out. We said, who are you? And I've forgotten the guy's name, she said. But say it was like Bob, right?
Yeah.
So it's Bob. And she's like, oh, that's a friend of my mum's who died a couple of years ago. And he comes through the Ouija and passes messages on.
Oh my God.
Sometimes. So she gets on the phone, she calls Goldie. And she's like, Mum.
Get Goldie on the horn.
Yeah, she's like, Goldie on the horn. That was good. Perfect.
Yeah.
She was like, Mom, I'm on the Ouija. And Bob's coming through, and she's like, ask if he has any messages for me. And so she says, Bob, do you have any messages for my mom? And so it goes, Y O U A R E
I'm gonna cry.
H O L L Y W O O D. You are Hollywood. You are Hollywood.
Oh my God, you know what I thought I was going to say? You are horny. Waiting.
Oh, you are a hoe.
No, but that's, I said it like that because that was us. Like you're reading it out going, what is this? You don't know where this gets to. But so, you know, this is like an iconic Hollywood entertainer whose identity is very rooted in having been a success in Hollywood, and an old friend of hers in spirit form wanting to pass on a message, you are Hollywood. I mean, how beautiful is that story?
Oh my God, you know what I hope? That one day when I'm dead and Lauren's alive and that she's doing a Ouija, God forbid, with you, Ben, and then Concetta's coming through the thing, and I'm like, you are Hollywood, darling.
No, it would be like, you are Wallara.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my God, that's
crazy.
Okay, this leads me to my next question, which I actually
on
this. No. Okay, go.
No, you go. Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it was so funny how like she's like, oh, I'm gonna call my mum, and everyone's like, yeah, call your mum because her mum's Goldie Hawn. But like, if anyone else did that, you'd be like, fuck off. Like, we want to do the ghost thing.
That's true. That's normally not a cool thing to say, is it?
Yeah. Anyway.
No, I was gonna say one of my favorite questions in the world, Ben. Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Oh, I don't. I consider myself fairly agnostic on every front that's supernatural. Like I'm open to them being real or not being real. I've had a couple of experiences, but nothing that can't be explained another way. And I think that's, at the end of the day, people that have like hardcore faith in supernatural things have had some experience that is like beyond doubt. And I'm not really like that. So I think the most likely answer is they're not real. But then I heard someone explain to me once, she used a great term. I asked her if she believed in ghosts. She said, they're not ghosts, they're echoes.
Make it music. Make it a music thing.
I guess that's kind of like the idea of like your energy, like everything in the world is energy, including people and like moving and everything. And so if someone dies, then that energy doesn't go away. It maybe just continues to reverberate throughout the universe.
Well, I've had like psychedelic experiences where I'm outside of time and space, or perceive myself to be. So why not? Like maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's a thing we just don't access in this physical realm.
Yeah.
But do you think it would really make it really interesting if I came to either of you, two dear friends of mine, and I was like, guys, I saw a ghost the other day. Like, you'd be like, whoa, I like and trust Concetta. That's what I'm always ready for. Someone I know and love to like have a story, and I will take it as gospel. And I'll be like, well, now I must believe. Well, I believe them.
I've had that happen, and I still didn't fully believe them. Like, even though there were people I loved, I still thought that. And sometimes, like, the way people talk about something, it's got a charge to it, and you go like, "There's issues there. I don't know what this is, but there's some unresolved trauma."
I told Ben, and he's like, Concetta, I'm a big fan. I'm a big supporter of you. I love all your stories, but not this one.
I love like the idea. I love the concept, but there's just something about it that isn't right for me. And I'd love to work together in future, but this isn't it.
This isn't it. This isn't it. Lauren, do you have where should we go next? There's so much.
Maybe we wanted to say, so like there's just like lots of like name drops. We're just like wanting to like just throw names at you and you can just riff on that. You have a collaboration that I actually had no idea that you had. Sorry, maybe that's rude to say. Maybe I'm sorry.
I do
maybe
so much shit.
Famous.
It's like hard. It's like,
But yeah, you have a collaboration. You're in a folk music duo with Josh Radnor, aka Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother. Wow. What's Josh Radnor like? He looks like a really chill guy, especially for someone who starred in such a big sitcom.
You guys should actually have him on. Like he'd
oh
be
my
a
God.
great...
I would die to have him on.
he's a great conversationalist too.
Wow, awesome.
Because he's like he was a very academic guy. Like he's one of my few friends that went to uni. Like
he's an architect.
Exactly. You know what's funny though? When we toured, because our band, our little duo, it got sort of, because How I Met Your Mother was so popular in Brazil, we started doing these Facebook Lives. And they would just be like Brazilian fans, right? So we got invited to tour there. And we went and toured Brazil and Argentina. And I cannot tell you, like, I lost count of the amount of architects that came up to Josh and said, I am an architect because of you. And Josh was like, I'm not actually an architect.
That's so awesome.
That's crazy.
Yeah. People going to Fran Drescher and being like, I'm a nanny.
Because of you. People come up to you, Concetta, and they're like, I have IBS because of you.
And that does happen.
Did he ever? My God. When you were touring Brazil, like for the fans of How I Met Your Mother, I guess a lot would come out. Like, did you ever like do bits from the show, or would you ever have a little riff? Or
it's tricky, like
how do you do that?
Like I really watched that situation. It's to have a massive, Lauren, you said something in your set that I loved when you were talking about wanting to be just successful enough.
Oh yeah.
I
have
love
a joke.
that bit.
Yeah. Oh my God. Can I even remember my jokes? But yeah, I have a bit that I do in comedy where it's like, I don't want me to be like hugely famous. I just want to, and it's How I Met Your Mother related. I only just want to be, I want to be as famous as, I've even forgotten her name.
Yeah, it's like Alison Hannigan or Kobe Smulders. That's it.
Kobe Smulders.
Yeah,
I was like, I just want to be as famous as Kobe Smulders. And then people are like, look puzzled. And then I'm like, she's the girl from How I Met Your Mother. And then people are always like, oh. Like, I'd love to get it. Oh.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's the dream. But it's a good bit because it's actually super accurate. Like, no one wants to be, if you're like a psychotic person that wants to be like super duper famous, that's one thing. But most people I know, they want to be able to buy organic groceries, order in food whenever they want, pay off their mortgage, go on nice holidays, and be left alone. And not
Oh my God, that is so funny. That is literally Ben and I. We were like, we just want to get to the level that like shopping at Harris Farm Markets or Maloney's is just the norm. Because that is enough of a level that it's like, this is normal and I don't need more and I don't need less. I don't need to be Oprah. I don't need to be, anyone huge. I just need to go to Maloney's and get nice peanuts.
Well, you want to not look at the prices.
Not look at the prices.
But so what I saw with Josh, because he's the friend I'm closest to that had, in a way, like the most mainstream American success you can have. Like, I've had friends do successful things, but How I Met Your Mother is very specific. It's like broad 7 p.m. sitcom that college students, families watch together. And it really is a double-edged sword. And I felt for him navigating that. But you cannot deny, I think he's learned gratitude over the years because it opens doors for you forever. Like us getting to tour Brazil would not have happened without him having been on How I Met Your Mother. Like, if you can stay in a place of humility and not being resentful that like for me, the odds are, like, you never know. I'm actually someone that always thinks you never know what's around the corner. But the odds that I would ever have a song as big as Catch My Disease or We're All in This Together are like pretty stacked against me. It's like, it would take something very unusual. So those songs may be my most sort of famous contributions to music. And you can get to a point where you're playing on stage going like, oh, the audience is waiting for Catch My Disease, whatever. But instead you just go, dude, this song has literally kept food on the table for 15 years. Like, I am so good. May everyone be blessed with one or two successes that they feel resentful of, you know?
Oh my God, that is so interesting. Because I was just watching this interview, Charlie Rose interviewing all the panel of like Seinfeld separately, just like in this compilation on YouTube. And I was listening to
Of course you were watching that, but
yeah, last night. Yep. And Jason Alexander is talking about why they did those contract negotiations to be getting that high salary per episode. It was like, I think it was like either $1 million or $600,000 for each episode after like 5 seasons or so. And he was saying it's because that show was such an insane lifetime mix, popular, crazy, that was making the networks millions and millions of dollars. And they were saying for it to be worth it, because this show, for it to keep going on and them to keep playing those characters, for them as actors has diminishing returns because they become more and more entrenched in the characters. It's harder for them to go into something else. So they were like, unless we make a cut of, they wanted syndication. They wanted syndication so that it benefits them to keep doing this, or what does it benefit? So I just thought that was so interesting to hear someone talk so honestly about how, you know, he was saying it's that exact thing, double-edged sword of this will be his most iconic role in his life, and it's nothing will, and that's both amazing, and he's like, he chooses to see the amazing side of it and what that opened rather than be resentful and unhappy.
Yeah.
And I just, that's exactly what you're talking about. So I just
because
heard that, so it's beautiful.
Yeah, like, because in the same way, like he will always be George from Seinfeld, you know, like Josh Radnor, like he like, in my head, I'm like, oh, the guy from How I Met Your Mother, like. And so, yeah, he could be like, oh, I'm just the guy from How I Met Your Mother. Or he could be like, oh, I'm the guy from How I Met Your Mother. I made $1 zillion and I have that forever now. So
forever.
That's
Yes, and Jason was saying
cool.
things like his family, it's all paid for and it's worth it. And
he's done.
And that's sort of similar. Lauren and I will be tied as big natural forever.
Yeah, and people will say Lauren Bonner, that big naturals girl, right?
yeah, who makes zillions and zillions of $0 from the podcast.
And you know it is. It's like you know, with being an entertainer and artist, it's like you do. I mean, the amount of projects you do versus the ones that are like profitable or whatever. It's like, I mean, mostly if you averaged out the amount of like hours I've put into music versus the money that I've live it around the clock in my mind. Like there's no off day to it. There's no off hours.
Yes, you
so like,
actually sound exactly like me when I was trying to explain that to my Centrelink job service provider, because he was like, how many hours did you work last week? And I was like I'm working, like I am working, like living is working, like I'm always like hours reading, and money, and like those hours might not all be paid, and
absolutely,
it's like a bub. But it's true, and so I never begrudge. I mean, look, there are certain people who make so much money that you can't help but just be a bit like, now that is too much money. But basically,
it's unethical at a point.
But that, I don't think that's ever happened to an Australian entertainer.
I mean, no.
Well, just wait and see.
Exactly.
I'm going to be the Jeff Bezos of stand-up comedy.
Also, did we ask you what Lena is like? Is she an amazing, beautiful flower?
Please, any anecdote you have.
Yeah, I have.
We love her. We feel like we'd be friends.
Yeah,
sure.
I could see that. Lena is a truly magical, creative person who is very like, in my experience, it's like interactions with her are very like all or nothing. It's not like, there's not like polite, like, oh yeah, how you going? What's going on? It's like, there's an idea happening and you are riding a tidal wave of like creativity and romance and excitement, or it's like she's disappeared and is somewhere. And I that's a certain type of creativity that I actually it's not how mine is, but I like it.
Yeah.
I find it very like, I like to get lost in someone's like manic aura of like productivity. And And I also think it's, you know, she's someone who's done a lot of public learning, and
big time.
and I think for the most part, people have been much more unforgiving with her than they have been to. And this is a, you know, this is a conversation about how women are treated, I think, in the media landscape. But
absolutely.
she's
People
continued to step up and tried to rectify whenever there's been an issue, and I've been impressed with that. Like, I like people growing and changing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone said to me, it's like, if you really are like a fan of someone or like their work, you want to see them grow. You're there for the journey, like a true person who believes in you and sees you. That kind of fan are the ones that last and stay. And I was like, that's what you want to see if you, I mean, there's all different types of fans for different types of
No, well, that's the thing.
people.
But me and Ben, your Ben, were talking about that yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, because I was talking, you know, you've been doing all this more visible TV stuff, and like, it's the kind of stuff that gets across to like your grandma, and like this casual fan of media and entertainment that only sees the things that break through. So like to me, there's like a whole world of fans, you'd call them fans, who go, when are you going to put out your next song? Thinking Catch My Disease was my last song. Because it's not on the way they consume media is they consume the mainstream of the mainstream that's handed to them on a platter on primetime television. And if it's not there, it doesn't exist.
That's, you know? Like, because so me and
those
Concetta,
audiences come and go. Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead,
and but it's so funny as well seeing like how people like that you know as well react to the way you do things. Like me and Concetta are both on this random Channel 7 show. It's like we're just talking heads. We're on screen for seconds at a time. Like, it's not a big deal, and it's definitely not like our creative magnum opus to be doing this Channel 7 show. It's great. It's cool and exciting to be on a mainstream channel and everything like that. But it's so funny, like you post like, hey, I'm going to be on this show. It's on Channel 7 at 9:00 on Tuesdays. And like people come out of the woodwork. Like everyone from my high school is like liking it. People that are like, that haven't talked to me in 20 years are like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then I'm just there being like, I also like did a show at the Melbourne Comedy Festival, and that was actually kind of better than this, and it was like really important to me. And why didn't you like that post?
I think that what you just articulated is the fundamental struggle with straddling the mainstream and whether you call it the underground or the artistic community or people that do things not just for money, is that in the mainstream, only mainstream success is rewarded. And it's hard to engage with it earnestly and not be resentful. When it's such a narrow, you have to be such a narrow version of yourself in that world. That's why a lot of what I've been thinking about a lot lately is the characters that public people choose to like, I haven't really articulated this. It's just been bubbling away. But like, there's a certain relationship you can have with the media where you realize they need you to be a character in order to digest you. So you willingly cooperate. And there is a mild selling of the soul, but there's also a protective shell, because Tom Waits gets to be the jitterbug hobo sitting on the couch, and you know, and he gets to be normal with his wife. And there's something about entering the transaction with pop culture as a conscious transaction rather than being needy and being like, but I need you to see all of me, because it's never gonna happen, you know. I feel like I just gave a sermon. I don't know why I did that, but anyway,
I needed to hear it. Amen to that.
I've been thinking about that a lot. You know, how do we play our characters with a light touch, so that we play the game and we can give up a little, but we choose how much we give up.
Yeah, and that's, I think, as well, something that's interesting. Like, I've got a friend who's doing a lot of research right now about, she calls the topic digital anxiety, which is kind of about how we also play these characters, not just celebrities anymore, but people kind of inhabiting their personas online, and also how that is kind of a performance, or like the old kind of theory as well about the presentation of self and things like that. And like, it's really complicated. And then, yeah, doing like a mainstream show like Channel 7, I'm like, oh my gosh, like even we got the promo photos and it was so funny. They'd given me a nose job. I swear to God. I was
and
like,
they gave me Botox lip.
yeah, Concetta had like lip filler. Like we just looked like we were ready to go on a reality show. And I was like, whoa, like this girl, she looks great. Like it's not me. But, and then you see like, yeah, the 10 seconds of footage that they took out of an hour of you talking, they cut it together. Like it's not you, but yeah, it's funny. You need to get comfortable with like having yourself depicted, and your depiction of yourself is not always inside your control.
And detaching yourself is what I'm needing to learn of who you are
it's
on
a
TV
wild,
with who
wild
you are.
Journey. And that's
a
really
wild journey.
Smart what you were just saying. I didn't think about that, how we're all doing micro versions of branding now. That's what everyone says. What's your brand? What's your brand? Because I started my career before social media. I haven't had that as intrinsically layered in, but I did experience that, like, I was like cool when I was a teenager, right? So like cool people liked me. And that was my brand.
Yeah, same,
but I was like,
same.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, us as well.
A lot of people wanted to collaborate and stuff. Like, so I went to New York pretty young.
I was at a lot of parties, kissed a lot of boys, Ben.
I saw Jerry Seinfeld, and I was like, how am I going to ruffle this guy's feathers?
I did that
Just for the heck of it.
I totally asked for that, complaining about my brand being
No.
we know what you mean.
No,
We know what you mean. The facts of the story is you were cool, yes.
That you cool is something that's like, yes, it's intrinsic to who you are, I guess, if you like can manage situations, but it's also just, are you like, do you happen to be born at a time where your vibe coincides with a generational moment that, like, for me, making music in my bedroom was something I did. Like, I came from a scene that was substance over style. Like, we were not good at playing music, but in the early 90s, that had its own charm. And it was like, the coolest thing you could do was not know how to do it and do it anyway. So if I'd been born 100 years before, my skill set would have been totally inappropriate for the cultural landscape. Because that
you couldn't have been
prodigy
a bard.
would have been real. Yeah, I couldn't have done it, right? So anyway, so I just thought about how, but still, that brand was sort of thrust on me, and I had my own struggle with that, of like doing things like that were deliberately uncool because I felt constricted by the brand that was thrust on me, you know? So I'd be like, I want to do something with Benji from Good Charlotte, and I want Mandy Moore to sing on my record, and like things that were like seen at that point as like being uncool, kind of. But they were very much like me reacting against the being constricted in a brand that I didn't choose, you know? So
that is so cool. I could literally talk to you for a lifetime.
We can do it again later down the line.
We should just do it again. There's like, there's more gossip. There's more questions.
There's so much.
I think it's crazy. I was just going to say, Lauren, did I say that, I was saying to Ben that the song Cigarettes Will Kill You is one of like my favorite songs of all time, and it only just hit me that that's you and you're someone who lives near me and I talk to. And my final question is, would you sing at me and Ben's probably eventual wedding that
my God.
I am planning already?
Personally, yes, and I just love your whole obsession with trying to get this guy to propose to you. What's so funny about it is that it's like the horror.
What do you mean? Why is it funny?
Hidden behind the joke. Hidden behind the horror, hidden behind the joke. And you get to be totally transparent and have your need and your desire as upfront as possible and visible, but still hide behind that you're doing this character. And it's like, and you will get what you want as a result.
Yeah. Oh, it's a character, but I'm serious.
Yeah, it's a character, but I'm serious. I don't know. It's so funny. Like that, even just doing bits like that, I'm so like sensitive. I'm like, no, it's a joke, but like, no, it's real. My own mother is like, so funny. She's like, don't get married. She's like, stop being obsessed with it. Like what I grew up with, which is like thinking that that's what you had to do. My mom's like, chill out. She's like, do you know some people live together forever and they don't get married and they have children and they have a house? She's like, be like that.
No,
and so
why wouldn't I want the party?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just so funny that I play into this thing that my mom doesn't. Here's what I say about Ben. He'll either be the love of my life forever or it'll be the biggest heartbreak. And guess what? It's a win-win.
Yeah.
So ring or not, it's a big win for me. So I love to gun to your head, Ben Caution.
It's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good so far. Seems pretty compatible.
Look, even if we don't have a wedding, I'll make Lauren and I have some sort of commitment ceremony, and you can sing at that.
Happy to, of course.
We're going to get in a gown for something pretty soon.
We need a reason to live, Ben. Come on, give it to us.
Olivia, let's get on our way to wrapping up.
Yes.
Do you have any other final burning bits of gossip that you wanted to throw out just while you're here?
I mean, something that I don't know if this is, you guys are going to care about this, but it's something that happened a long time ago, but it's become more relevant recently. Have you guys watched this documentary that's out there, everyone's seen, called Woodstock 99?
Oh, I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard a lot about it.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, it was this disastrous music festival that was like Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
It was like basically like a metal, like new metal festival.
New metal,
like,
yeah.
It was just like rapes and like awful, like
yeah.
What?
It was really badly organized and like Firefest times 100. Like it was just
okay. I want to watch this.
Anyway, I played it. I was on the emerging artist stage, and what's funny is like there was this weird group because it was all new metal, and then there were just these weird other people like chucked on this side stage. So it was me and that band Muse. Muse were just starting.
Yes. What? Wow.
Andy Dick.
Yes. Whoa.
Tom Papa was the host. I didn't
Oh
realize.
my god. That's comics, right?
Yeah, I did a gig
Papa?
with him at Largo last year or the year before, and he was like, we actually met before at Woodstock 99. And Bijou Phillips, who is this singer, you would actually love. Bijou was like the wild child of 90s nightlife in New York. Like she's a fun person, and she's still a friend of mine. But anyway, she had a music thing going for a bit. But it was crazy because people, to me, it was just another bad gig. You know, we went in and out. It was like, but we drove in, and it was already on the news that there was this festival happening in New York that was a total disaster.
So they knew you knew at the time that it was like a nightmare.
Because even like the parking and the ticketing, it was like all broken. The whole thing was like, but I'll never forget as we pulled in. This is like such a dark note to end this lovely conversation on.
Well, I've got one more question afterwards that'll lighten it
up. Okay, good. We'll redeem ourselves. My tour manager turned to me and he just said, "It smells like death here." And we just pulled up to the stage and did the gig and got out.
Oh my god! Sorry, that's the pod title right there. It smells like death here. That's gorgeous.
Done. Yeah, thank you. Sorted.
That's sometimes me and Lauren.
Relevant, you know. So,
Oh my god, that's us like walking into an open mic.
Yeah,
in, like
the Gold
Lewisham, the Gold Coast. Yes, on the Strip. The Gold Coast Strip.
The odd through the pokies room. It's the mingled smell in the comedy world. It's like the mingled smell of like popcorn from a pokies room and like stale beer on the ground, but also like something sweet. It's like
vomit.
We're gonna crush.
Vomit. There's usually vomit mixed into it too. Like,
yeah, it's bad.
Wait, Lauren, can I do the thing before you do the last question that I think ties into it?
Okay.
I promise it'll be really
I don't know
quick.
what it's going to be, but
mad.
I want you to do it. I'm not mad.
So, Ben Lee, I don't know if my Ben Caution, has told you this before, but he mentioned it to me when I said that you were coming on the pod. He said that a friend of his has this story that he says that a teacher at your old school,
everyone
Mariah,
tells this story.
Yeah, have you heard this? That she was like, you have no talent and you'll never make it. Is this real?
Did you have a mean
is this
teacher?
Real? 2, do you remember it? And 3, how cool that she was wrong.
I do. I love this urban legend. Because Ben went to the same school I went to. Yeah. My memory of it was a little different, but it was equally. I was that telling of it places no blame on me. I actually think I was probably torturing the teacher, and I probably did think I was pretty cool because I'm in music class and I've actually got a record deal, and all these losers are learning how to play the recorder.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But my memory of this heated exchange was that it wasn't the actual moment in class was just a stressful teacher-student interaction where I was talking and I was whatever, and then the teacher lost it And in her yelling, she said, just because you've had some degree of commercial success and something, she revealed some sour grapes.
Wow.
And that I found it like kind of heartbreaking, because I think teachers are like, now that I'm a parent too, like I'm so grateful for teachers, but there is sometimes an aspect, particularly in the performing arts, where, you know, that old thing, they say those that can't do teach. You do hit a little bit of that where people didn't choose to do it. It became like a fallback plan.
Yeah.
And that,
I know it's mine.
yeah. What, you can teaching drama? Would you teach drama, really? Could you imagine doing that?
Drama. Yeah, I could do. I mean, I wouldn't love it, but have I looked up that I
could do it.
I could do my Masters of Teaching, 13 months express. It's only $10,000 extra on my HEX. Have I looked that up? Hell yeah, I have. Yeah.
And imagine like a teenager in your class started getting like a stand-up career going.
I wouldn't be like coy about it. It wouldn't take a moment of heat. I'd walk in the classroom and be like, all right, kids, today one of you is fucking sitting outside. Someone has come up to me and told me that someone in this class has been signed to a major agency and is doing Just for Laughs.
So good.
That is so funny. Like Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
It would get very dark very quickly. Wow, that's amazing that we debunked that, and we'll get her on the pod next week.
Absolutely.
For her side.
And she'll say, no, I did say it, and I do believe it, and I hate him. So,
okay, Lauren, wrap it up. Final question.
Oh yeah, the last thing we just wanted to ask was, like you even said at the very beginning, you know, you are kind of like a proud Jewish father figure in the industry and in this podcast right now.
In this podcast world.
Do you have any, like, you've got such an interesting career, and you also seem like such a, I mean, it's just a very surface level observation, but you seem like someone who's so kind of just like at peace with themselves and their
grounded,
creative practice.
Kind.
You've got a beautiful wife who we didn't even talk about, and like,
oh my
don't
God,
get me started.
We will have her on. I literally adore that woman.
But do you have any like advice for us, or I guess like creatives in the industry, in the biz? Like, if you could have told your snotty 14-year-old self something, like, what do you reckon? It's a bit of a cliche question, but we all need to hear it right now.
There was a movie, a Spike Lee movie with Ed Norton in it about like his 24 hours before he went to prison. Did you ever see that? It was called like 24 hours or something. I can't remember, but it ended with this amazing scene where Ed Norton turns to his best friend and he goes, fuck me up. Punch me in the face. He's like, if I walk into prison looking like this, I'm going to be the bottom of the food chain. I need to walk in damaged. You know what I mean? And I think show business is a little similar in that, like, it's kind of like Neil Young made a record of just feedback and it was unlistenable, but no one ever told Neil Young what to do ever again. Do you see the correlation? These stories are kind of the same to me. That like,
so I need to get Lauren to punch me in the face.
Well, you have to prove that you're outside of your audience's control.
Yeah. And prove that you kind of aren't exclusively there to pander to them.
Exactly.
But that you're also there to serve your own kind of practice. And
they can overlap.
Probably lose your mind.
They can overlap, you know, like at my best, I hope I'm entertaining myself and my audience equally. But I made it crystal clear from 14 years old that, you know, I made a record once called It Was Never About the Audience. And I genuinely believe that like I need validation as badly as you guys, as badly as anyone in our jobs, you know, but I know that where this actually lands for me is about how psyched I am about what I'm doing. And that's it. And there's no other, I can't imagine any other advice you'd need, you know. I mean, the side of to do with like having a happy marriage and family, that's a whole other science. But as far as like careers, I just think like you can't be, it's like, you know, you gotta be a badass a little bit in your own way. Like everyone has their own way of doing it, and you can be like the nicest badass there is, but you have to be someone that no one thinks they're going to tell you what to do.
Whoa.
Powerful words.
I have to change my personality quick smart. I have to change in a second.
Yeah, I got a few emails I got to unsend. No, but I think the comedy, like what I'm thinking similar, like that's like a complex answer that is very big, but like a very small aspect of that I can see how that just demonstratedly will make you better is like in comedy, we all know that like when you're up there and you don't give a fuck and you don't care and you're even in a bad mood and maybe you look ugly and you just get up and you're like, yeah, what? Okay. That is always the best gig.
The better.
Because the audience can tell you don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But if you get up there and you're like, oh, please like me, like it's never as good.
The worst
edge
is
of not
the way
caring.
you rush.
Yeah.
Don't you rush when you're nervous? Like confident people move slowly because they're
Take your time.
They're not afraid of like, even if the punchline
so
doesn't work,
true.
who cares? What am I rushing to it for? Let's see what the journey's like.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That just comes back to me. The one thing that when I remember it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is so lame, but like no fear. Like fear is the biggest, scariest, most constricting thing. And if you can fly in the face of it, even in little moments, that's where joy is, baby. That's where it's like, and that's like, yeah, wow, we came to it.
We got deep.
We're solved.
We super sold this.
And it smells like death in here.
And it smells like death in here.
Oh, thank you so much, Ben. We truly adore you, all sides of you. Thank you for all the love and support and for coming on. And we'll have you again, and we'll have Ione, and maybe we can do like a double-decker ep because you know that I love the story of you two getting together, and you know I want to hear it. Yeah, just the best.
Right
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. I guess like it's. Do you have anything to
Yeah.
plug?
I do,
Ben
actually.
Lee on our podcast.
No, I do. I have a single coming out September
let's go.
24th.
Oh,
And it's called Born for This Bullshit. And
Yes.
it's about all
that's
this.
my life motto.
It's about everything we're talking about. It's just about having the courage to have your personal swagger as you move through like climate change and everything that's going on, So
That's
so
what
yeah,
we
so that'll be
need.
out. Yeah, exactly. And my album,
oh my God.
it's from my album that'll be out early next year. And the album's called I'm Fun.
Yes! Oh my God, I'm obsessed with those titles. Wow.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Everyone get ready.
Amazing. Get ready.
Right
Have
on.
a listen. It'll be all on the internet, Spotify, whatever, or buy the album if you truly support the arts. Okay. So thanks so much for listening, guys. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at bignaturaltalents and Concetta, Caristo, Lauren Bonner, Ben Lee.
Bentley Music.
What a delight.
What a collab.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right.
Bye.
Bye.